So you think drinking tap water is dirty, or maybe you think it's poor, or maybe you just trust bottled water more. Maybe you've never actually said it out loud, but every time you walk past a sink and reach for a plastic bottle instead, you're making a decision. And that decision is costing people around the world roughly $350 billion every year on bottled water. That's one of the statistics highlighted by Johnny Harris when he investigated why people don't trust tap water. Which raises a strange question. If tap water is supposedly safe, why are so many people avoiding it? And if you stay to the end of this video, I'll give you the government website that tells you how safe to drink your water is in your area. Now back to this video. Why do millions of people happily drink water from a bottle that often started as outdoor water anyway? Why do you trust a logo more than a faucet? Because this story isn't about water. It's about trust. And trust is one of the most valuable currencies on earth. The moment you stop trusting something, its actual quality almost doesn't even matter anymore. The first shift. People don't buy bottled water because they're thirsty. They buy certainty. Think about it. You walk into a gas station, there are 20 different brands of water. Mountain water, glacier water, spring water, purified water, alkaline water. Water that sounds like it was collected by a monk living on a cliff somewhere. Every bottle is designed to communicate the same thing: safety, purity, trust. But your kitchen sink has terrible marketing. No label, no logo, no mountain on the packaging, no influencer telling you how healthy it is. Just a plain faucet. And somehow, that faucet has to compete against industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Now here's where things get weird. In many places across America, tap water is tested more frequently and regulated more heavily than bottled water is. Yet millions of people still trust the bottle more. Why? Because humans don't make decisions based purely on facts. You make decisions based on stories. And for decades, bottled water companies have been selling you one very powerful story. The story that bottled water is cleaner, safer, healthier, more premium, more successful. The bottle became more than a container. It became a symbol. And symbols are powerful. And people don't just buy products. They buy what products say about them. The second shift. Sometimes you're not paying for water. You're paying for the reassurance. But before you start believing tap water is perfectly safe everywhere, there's another side of the story. Because this trust didn't appear out of nowhere. This trust was earned. You can say the word Flint and millions of Americans immediately know what you're talking about. A city where residents were told their water was safe until it wasn't. Lead contamination, national headlines, broken confidence, and Flint wasn't the only example. Across America, there are communities dealing with aging infrastructure, contamination concerns, and questions about what exactly is flowing through their pipes. This is where the conversation becomes unforgettable, because both sides have a point. Many water systems are incredibly safe. Some are not. Most people don't know which category they fall into. And uncertainty creates fear. Fear creates behavior. Behavior creates industries. That's how you end up paying $2 for something that costs fractions of a penny from your tap. The third shift. Fear is one of the most profitable business models ever created. Think about insurance. Think about alarm systems. Think about extended warranties. And now think about bottled water. Every one of them is selling protection against uncertainty. And uncertainty feels expensive. But certainty feels priceless. Even if it's an illusion. This is where Johnny Harris made an observation that stuck with millions of viewers. The issue isn't necessarily the water itself. It's that trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. Trust is strange. It takes decades to build, one scandal to destroy, and years to recover. Imagine someone hands you two glasses. One contains tap water, one contains bottled water. They are chemically identical, exactly the same. Most people would still have a preference. Not because of science, because of psychology alone. Because your brain doesn't just evaluate the liquid. Your brain evaluates the story surrounding it. The fourth rule. Humans drink narratives just as much as water. That leads to an even stranger question. Is bottled water actually safer? The answer is sometimes, but not always. Research has found that bottled water comes with its own concerns, including plastic contamination and microplastics. Some experts argue that people who exclusively drink bottled water may actually consume significantly more plastic particles than people who rely on tap water alone. But wait, so the thing that people buy because it feels cleaner might introduce an entirely different problem? Well, exactly. Which means the debate isn't as simple as people want it to be. Because real life really is. Most people want a villain. Tap water, bad. Bottled water, good. Or the reverse. But reality refuses to cooperate. Reality lives in the gray area. And the gray area doesn't fit nicely on a label. The fifth shift. The safest answer is usually the least satisfying one. For many Americans, municipal tap water is safe, affordable, and heavily monitored. For some communities, additional filtration may be smart. For others, bottled water may occasionally make sense. Natural disasters, water advisories, infrastructure failures, special circumstances. The real question isn't, is all tap water safe? The real question is, do you know what's in yours? Because there is a massive difference between informed caution and generalized fear. One is useful, the other is expensive. And expensive fear scales remarkably well. Think about the economics. You can spend pennies filling a reusable bottle, or spend hundreds or thousands of dollars every year buying bottled water. Not because you're getting different hydration, because you're buying confidence. And confidence sells. Always has, always will. Which brings us to the finalized realization. Maybe the biggest reason why people don't trust tap water has very little to do with the water. Maybe it has everything to do with modern life. Every year it feels like institutions lose a little more trust. Governments, corporations, media, experts, systems. People increasingly question everything. And when trust begins disappearing everywhere, it shouldn't surprise you that it disappears from the kitchen sink too. The faucet becomes a mirror, not reflecting water, reflecting confidence and reflecting skepticism, reflecting how much faith you have left in systems around you. That's why the story is bigger than water, much bigger. Because the moment you stop trusting something invisible, you start paying for visible alternatives. A bottle, a label, a brand. Something you can hold in your hand. Something that feels safer. Even if the actual difference isn't always what you think. And that's the final shift. You start this video asking whether tap water is safe. But maybe now that's not the question you've really been trying to answer. Maybe the real question is, who convinced you it wasn't? Because once you understand that, you're no longer just looking at water. You're looking at one of the most successful trust competitors ever created. And every time you take a sip, you're casting a vote. So leave it in the comments. Do you drink tap water or do you only drink bottled water? Subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I left the link to check to see how clean your water is in your area in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. See you next Monday.